Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul are filled with many interesting and wacky characters, from crime lords to sleazy lawyers to a group of twins who can single-handedly take down an entire gang. But beyond these people with interesting backstories and lore and power dynamics are a group that's often forgotten about. Normal people. Normal people in Breaking Bad don't take backstage to the regular cast of high-powered criminals, but they're often overlooked. What grounds these shows in reality is often how the real people seem, well, real, or the situations that these people find themselves in also feel real. It's why every few episodes there's a long scene where somebody does something incredibly complicated and you see it happen every step of the way. It just helps the world and its people feel real. But I want to talk to you about the contrast we often see between the normal people and our main characters in the show. And obviously, this means spoilers for Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, but mostly Better Call Saul. In Better Call Saul, main character Jimmy McGill is a lawyer, which means he's often interacting with other lawyers, judges, and police officers. It's part of his job. But Jimmy also interacts with a lot of criminals. And guess what? Crime isn't easy. It requires a lot of manpower, sure, but it also requires consistently getting past the law to continue a criminal empire. And, well, that takes a lot of intelligence. Jimmy's job as a lawyer is contrasted with his work helping criminals and interacting with criminal masterminds. But the key word to remember here is contrast. They're often played against each other. We'll see Jimmy help some old people fight against a greedy corporation, then we'll see him help a murderer make bail. The two lives that Jimmy lives here, it never interact with each other. It's what helps the show keep itself balanced and grounded. We can see Jimmy working with criminals to make money, and also working with people who are less fortunate to satisfy his pride. Unfortunately, as the show continues, we know how it ends. Jimmy, has to end up becoming Saul Goodman.
Hi, I'm Saul Goodman. Did you know that you have rights? The Constitution says you do.
With this shift in character, another shift in the world happens. Jimmy starts burning bridges, destroying all the good he's ever worked for. Becoming a lawyer for organized crime isn't a one-time deal. Once you're in the game, you're in for life. And one of Jimmy's biggest connections to his old life is a man named Howard Hamlin. Howard Hamlin is a fellow lawyer in Better Call Saul and is the epitome of a normal person. He's, well, a normie. In Better Call Saul, Howard Hamlin is the legal partner of Jimmy's older brother, Chuck. They own one of the biggest law firms in the state. Jimmy notes before his hearing with the bar that they've probably made the careers of half of the people in the building. Howard and Chuck are outstanding lawyers, Chuck more so. During the hearing, it's noted that Howard got his job because his father owned the company before him. Nepotism, literally the most realistic part of these shows, honestly. But Howard is the epitome of a normal person. He's got a prestigious job, he's handsome, he's got a beautiful wife, he's incredibly charismatic, people love to be around him, he's got a nice house, fancy car, and, of course, he knows what the One Piece is. But basically, what you need to know is that on the outside, he's basically got a perfect life. And, spoilers, after Chuck dies, Howard is the only thing that really connects Jimmy to his old life. One of the things about Howard is that, like many other characters in this show, he's often putting on a mask for other people. But it's not because he's trying to trick somebody or kill a Don. It's for business. The only times we ever see his mask really fall is with the main characters, where he talks about the fact that he suffers from insomnia or that he's in therapy twice a week for his failing marriage. But unfortunately for Howard, every time he tries to open up to the main characters, it falls on deaf ears every single time. Every single time he's messed up, or maybe they're mad at him, or they're in a situation where Howard Hamlin is the bad guy. And Howard is a normal man. He makes mistakes, and he definitely fucks up. And sometimes it's bad. But it's not bad enough that he has to...
There's really no need to...
So let's talk about the final season of Better Call Saul. In the final season, things are ramped up a lot. Jimmy and his wife Kim start to torture Howard Hamlin. Howard aided in what leads up to Jimmy's brother taking his own life. It should be noted that Jimmy also had a hand in this, but no one else but Jimmy knows this. With this as a pretext, Jimmy and his wife start torturing him. Jimmy throws a bowling ball right through his prized car. Fair enough. Howard is a rich man. Who cares about one car? They send sex workers to him during business meetings to damage his reputation. Howard Hamlin is a man with a reputation built on the backs of his father and his father's friend. Maybe he should be knocked down a peg. Alright. They plant drugs on him at the local golf course, so everybody around him thinks that he's abusing drugs. They dress up like him and stage a whole thing of where it looks like he's kicking a sex worker out of his car right in front of one of his longtime friends and business partners. And finally, sort of, they drug him and trick him into believing that a judge/mediator is being paid off so that during one of the biggest meetings of his career, he has a meltdown, destroying the case, his credibility, and the potential of a bunch of seniors who were being scammed by a nursing home to get the money that they deserve. Like, Howard definitely isn't blameless, but the schemes get so elaborate and so deeply personal. I remember texting my friend who recommended Better Call Saul to me. You know, that one friend that everybody has that repeatedly messages them to watch Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul? Yeah, you know them. I messaged him that I thought that this was going way too far, especially if Howard and Jimmy are both to blame for his brother's passing. But every time they pull a prank, it gets way more elaborate, expensive, and time-consuming, to the point where they're hiring film crews and losing out on job opportunities to continue pulling these pranks. But the thing is, Howard isn't an idiot. The whole time he knows what's going on and who's behind it. And he does something that's truly endearing to his character. He tries to squash the beef between him and Jimmy peacefully and healthily. Remember before when I said that Howard's in therapy? Well, because of this, he tries to solve the problem between them in ways that are honestly very healthy. It would have been so easy for him to be just like, like a petty bitch. But no, first off, he offers Jimmy a job at his firm. That doesn't work. So he tries to speak to Jimmy on his own terms. He pretends to be a criminal client and coaxes Jimmy into a boxing match. If Jimmy doesn't want Howard's money, then maybe Jimmy just wants to beat the shit out of him until he's satisfied. Howard tries to reason with Jimmy. That doesn't work. He tries to have Jimmy beat him up. That also doesn't work. Howard wants Jimmy to be in his life. He's like a little brother to him. That's Chuck's little brother. He worked with him for years. He even had a nickname for Jimmy.
Charlie Hustle.
Charlie Hustle.
Howard is only ever truly honest with Jimmy and his wife Kim. We only ever get to see one scene with Howard and his wife, and it's very clear that he's in pain and he's not saying anything. He holds back so much from the people around him. Even in front of his own wife, he has a mask. But not with Jimmy and Kim. With them, he's a real person. But the thing is, they don't like him. They don't want to see him happy. The only people in the world Howard can be his genuine self with, and they just want to tear him down piece by piece. Near the beginning, I mentioned two things. That Howard, near the final episodes of this show, is Jimmy's only connection to his own life, and that the crime part of his life and the lawyer part of his life, the regular lawyer part, never really interact with each other. In the final episode that he appears in, Howard Hamlin comes to Jimmy and Kim's apartment. He's got a lot on his mind recently because of all the stuff that's happened to him. Most recently, it was the biggest case loss, because of Jimmy and Kim. He yells at them, tells them that he understands why someone wouldn't like them, but it's gone too far. When will it be enough for them? Until finally, Lalo Salamanca, a criminal that Kim and Jimmy had thought dead, a don of the cartel, shows up in their apartment. Lalo is somebody I haven't really talked about, but he's basically a wild card. He shows up mad and with a gun. His home and all the people inside of it were destroyed by a traitor, and he thinks that Jimmy is connected. But there's one problem right now. There's some random guy in their house. So without a second thought, he just kills Howard. Like he was nothing. We watched 6 seasons of this man learn about his life, his passions, his work, his problems, until he's killed like he's a random extra. Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul have a theme of bad people being punished, justice being served. Jimmy ends up serving time for his crimes in Breaking Bad. Walter White is killed, but Howard? Howard Hamlin's only real crime was being a normal person. In the final episode of Better Call Saul, Jimmy laments that he got Howard killed, basically. If it wasn't for him and Kim, Howard would have been alive right now. And it's not because Howard pushed his brother Chuck towards taking his own life, because, Jimmy also helped in that regard. Everything Jimmy did to Howard was because he was envious. He was envious of not the money or the status, but because Howard had the respect of his older brother, something that Jimmy never got. I didn't really mention it, but Chuck, Jimmy's older brother, was kind of an asshole. He never really believed in him. When Jimmy became a lawyer, he didn't offer him a position at his law firm. And when Jimmy starts working on his own as a solo practitioner, Chuck verbally states that he is not a real lawyer and he never will be.
I'm what? You're not a real lawyer. What a joke.
Chuck can never look past Jimmy's actions as a kid, of scamming people. He's always going to be that kid who would slip on the ice on purpose to get a payout. Slip in Jimmy. No matter what he did, Jimmy Mcgill would never be a real lawyer to his brother. Chuck's respect is what fueled his anger towards Howard, and it's ultimately what caused his death. Jimmy Mcgill is a phenomenal lawyer and a bad person. He was never going to solve things with Howard because, Howard was a normal person. There is no sequence of events that would allow Jimmy to solve things in a peaceful and healthy way. Howard Hamlin is a man who is cursed to suffer in life, not because he did anything bad, but because he did things mostly perfectly, actually. It's not even Howard's own fault that he was friends with Jimmy and Kim. Jimmy was Chuck's younger brother who worked at the firm, and Kim was also a really good lawyer who worked for him. The character of Howard Hamlin is tragic, unlike many other characters, because he isn't an evil person, or because of who he is individually. He's bad because he represents the system. If normal had a spokesperson, it would be Howard Hamlin. Howard Hamlin's only crime was that he was just a normal guy. The Breaking Bad universe is filled with people who aren't normal, though. If you want to hear about somebody who wasn't normal, try checking out this video. It's honestly weirder than you think. And if not, maybe this video. YouTube says you'd like it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe if you want to see more like it.